If your team got guaranteed money, tell them call me.
Whoop. Make me say, my. I done been around the world.
Yeah, I was made for this.
Player Performance with J.A. Cavalier.
Welcome, everybody, to Player Performance College Football Week 13. The season is coming to a virtual close. We got another 2 weeks regular season. Then we'll be talking about conference championships. And, of course, it'll be the college football playoff before you know it. I am Gunz CFB, joined as always, my man, Coach Rick. What's going on, my friend? How you doing?
Wonderful. Can't complain. It's beautiful. Great to be alive. It's still football season, thank God. I know it's getting late. It's coming towards the end, but still a lot of football left. A couple of weeks in a regular season, and then we'll be talking bowl games, and then pretty soon it's playoff time.
Yeah. I mean, there's still tons and tons of football left, of course. We got at least 3 weeks of really virtual regular season. And then we'll have Army-Navy, and then we'll have bowl season. And it's going to be absolutely electric time to be alive. If you have been to the show before, if you're watching the show for the first time, we break down the best top 25 games that we could find on the board this week. Yeah, we got a few, but not so many. It seems like this is the SEC bye week when they play the FCS, so I digress. Yeah. But we still bring you 8 games, and we bring some of the obscure games at the end of the top 25. Without further ado, let's go into the first play on the board as my computer's freezing up. There we go. And we'll go with this one here, Louisville, going on the road to go face SMU in Gerald J. Ford Stadium in Dallas, Texas. 12 p.m. It's going to be the kick on this one. And Louisville, coming off back-to-back home losses, going to be hungry in this one. Of course, losing on Friday night to Clemson in their previous game. And SMU, 7-3, not too shabby off back-to-back wins and a bye week. So they're going to be well-rested, well-prepared for this one. But is it going to be enough to win in Dallas, Texas, or is Louisville going to prevail here on the road? I'll start with you, Coach. What do you think of this game?
I think it's going to be a tough one. You got, like you mentioned, Louisville coming off 2 losses. SMU kind of been on one. But I actually don't have a lean anyway, side, total, nothing. However, I'll get there at some point, but the line at -2.5, of course, we talk about this a lot where, -2.5 home team, a lot of time it's an underdog line, but, it opened at SMU -1.5. You probably want to take a look at why that moved. Last year, Louisville was a 7-point favorite at home. SMU beat them 34-27 on their way to the ACC title game. So it's a battle between a Louisville offense that can throw the ball against an SMU defense that is supposed to be pretty good. Now, I still think they are, but they've given up a ton of passing yards lately. I mean, BC threw for 284 yards against them. Miami 274. They won those 2 games. And Clemson threw for 317 against them. So, if Louisville's going to have some success, it's probably going to have to be through the air because they're not great on the ground. And I don't know if the Isaac Brown kid's going to play or not. I think he's listed as questionable. He's been out and they haven't really been able to run the ball. However, like their offensive line isn't that great anyway. If you look at some of the, metrics like stuff rate and stuff like that, they're like bottom 25 or 30 in the country. So, it's Louisville. You can look at their defense too. I mean, they don't give up a ton of points. They've played pretty well the last few weeks. SMU and Kevin Jennings probably a little bit better, throwing the ball in their air raid offense than they are running it. Louisville a little bit better on run D than pass D. So, like I said, I look back and forth, and which way am I going to turn? I'm not sure yet. I might find myself leaning on the home team, but I'm not there yet. So I'll flip it back to you.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm in this lean spot here with SMU at -2.5, and I know this thing opened at 3.5, kind of went down to 2.5, but still going past the key number of 3. If there are key numbers in college, you can get it at 2.5 as we're recording this show. But I think what you hit a lot of the key points on this one. SMU basically wants to air out the ball. I'll say that they're 19th in pass play percentage, 20th in pass attempts per game, they're 12th in passing yards per game. They want to air it out, and you've seen it with that this Louisville defense. They've shown some weaknesses in the passing game. They give up 250 yards or more in 3 out of the last 5 games, so a little susceptible against the pass. And you mentioned the line correlation on this one. Of course, this is a revisionist history there with Louisville. SMU did win that game 34-27, 7-point road dogs in that situation. Now the line is flipped, making them a 2.5-point favorite here. Opened at 3.5, and I saw 4s at one point earlier in the week, but it has dropped. SMU is the hotter team here. I'll say that. And Louisville, I don't know if there's just going to be a falling knife or if we're just going to see this historically go down. And then, of course, you have this SMU team that is unranked playing at home. They are the favorite against the ranked opponent in Louisville still, even though they've lost back-to-back games on this one. I think SMU's in the spot. That's where I'm leaning. I don't know if I'm going to get there by Saturday, but that is the way I would play this game. Gun to the head, no pun intended. All right, let's go to the next game on the board here. Let's go a little, I want to say Pac-12 action, of course, but we're going with the Big Ten action. Feels weird to say that every time I look at these two teams. Revisionist history for years between these two squads. USC versus Oregon in Autzen Stadium, Eugene, Oregon. 3:30 is going to be the kick on this game. Two teams that are playing, I would say still playing for playoff spots, even with USC with 2 losses. Oregon's sitting in the driver's seat right now. 4-game win streak. They're on a Friday home win, absolutely smashing Minnesota, and they're comfortable at home. For USC, had a little bit of travel, played at home, did come back in that game versus Iowa. But is it going to be enough here? USC traveling to Oregon, not good history in Autzen Stadium, but I'll pass it to you, Coach. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, before I start, while it's on my mind, I'll say it and see if we get any comments in the chat if you hear this. What do you think about a 2-loss team in a playoff? Because I'll tell you my thought. They don't belong. So if the regular season actually matters, why is a 2-loss? Why are we talking about 2-loss teams? Alabama, USC, all these teams with 2 losses. Why? And I get it. I understand. I know. But what do you think? So feel free to comment. Maybe we'll check it out and fire up some comments back. As far as this game goes, comes down to basically it's really one thing. Maybe you think it's 2, but Oregon runs the shit out of the football, and USC can't stop it. And I talked, I think it was last week, or we talked about, was it USC Iowa last week or the week before? It's all a blur now. But USC has improved defensively. The problem is that they still give up a ton of rushing yards. Notre Dame ran for over 300 yards against these guys. Illinois, $171. That's their 2 losses. Why'd they lose? Well, part of it's because the opponent could run the football. So, Numbnuts playing a defensive coordinator there. Like, if you, and I know people don't look at it the way I do, but he's playing a lot of times he's lining up with 2 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers, and 5 DBs, which I get because, a lot of teams are air raid teams and throw the ball around all day. And, you got to have a bunch of hybrid athletes on the field, with speed. I get it. But when you put 2 true D linemen on the field and try to stop Oregon, you're going to get dick stomped. So the other problem USC is going to have, there's a kid named Keyshawn Silver. He wears number 9. He's a freaking house. He's like 6'4", 330. He's one of their D tackles. He's actually questionable for this game. If he doesn't play, that's a huge problem too. So USC defensively, I think they're going to get run over. Oregon, top 10 in the country in rush offense, and they can throw it too. Dante Moore, he can get it done. And he can do it with his feet too. So, and then if you flip it, I know USC, man, great offense. Yeah, it is. They score a lot of points. They throw the ball really, really well. Guess who they're playing? The number 1 pass defense in the country. One team has thrown for at least 200 yards. Everybody else is under 200, and not only under 200, but way under 200. And the only team that did was Indiana, which is number 2 in the country. So Sorry, but for me, why is this line almost double digits? Well, it's because Oregon's at home and they're going to pound USC. So for me, it's Oregon minus 9.5, and probably the play I like better is just I like Oregon's team total, which you can get at 34.5. I think they're going way over that.
Yeah, I mean we're on the same. There's just nothing.
Yeah, and you know what? I'd throw this out there too, is because I looked at it and I'm thinking about it, is USC's team total is 24.5. Like take USC under. Oregon has given up 24 points once, and that was to Indiana. That's it.
Yeah, to Indiana. It was the last time I checked. It's number 2 in the country. So it's not like, this is a battle-tested team, and every time they get battle-tested, I mean, going on the road to Iowa, very tough spot. Going on the road to Penn State, they got it done. Was it ugly wins? Yes, absolutely, it was ugly wins. But when you have a West Coast team traveling to the East Coast, typically you do not come back with a win. And I know USC isn't a good travel team, even though they're traveling in the same time zone in this situation. I think this is an Oregon spot. I think you hit a lot of the key points on this one. Very good run team. They're number 1 in rushing yards per carry and 8th in rushing yards per game. That is Oregon. Oregon loves to run the ball. And you mentioned a lot of the key stats in the defensive formations for USC of why they can't stop the run. You look at the last 4 games, 202 rushing yards per game given up to opponents, 5.6 opposing rushing yards per carry as well. And the passing is what USC's been successful at. They were successful at Notre Dame, but they're going against an Oregon team that is number 2 in opponent pass completion percentage, 1st in opposing pass yards per attempt, 1st in opponent passing yards per game. This is a very good pass defense with Oregon. Oregon is also 5-2 ATS as a double-digit favorite this year, and USC is 0-4 ATS on the road this year. Oregon is just a team, is just more battle-tested, ready to go, playing in Autzen. They're already comfortable there. They've been there for 1 week. And then Oregon is, USC, they're just not, when they play a top opponent, when the lights are brightest, and you're going to trust Lincoln Riley with your money, I do not do that. I will trust the other side. I'll trust the home team on this one. In Oregon, and every time they play in Autzen, doesn't matter who they play, they absolutely stomp them out. And this is the reason why Oregon is minus 9.5, minus 10 in this situation. So, yes, you can get minus 9.5 as we're recording the show now, and I'm seeing 10s pop up at the board. So, give me Oregon here, minus 9.5 in this spot. Sorry, USC, you're going to have to play nobody gives a crap bowl game somewhere in California or Florida or something like that. We'll see what happens on this one. All right. Let's go to the next game on the board here. Let's go to a little ACC action. Yes, we are going to talk about the boring, remedial ACC. Pittsburgh and Georgia Tech are going against each other in Bobby Dodd Stadium. Atlanta, Georgia, 7 p.m. is going to be the kick on this one. Hey, this Georgia Tech team, remarkably, 9-1 on the year and off a close win versus BC. Yes, a close road win versus BC, and they're 9-1. Pitt coming off that beating, absolute trouncing from my Notre Dame Fighting Irish last week, 7-3 on the year. But this Pitt team is frisky. Are they due for a bounce back? Or is Georgia Tech going to finish this game 10-1? I'll pass it to you, Coach. What do you think of this one?
Well, you mentioned Notre Dame Pitt. That was one of the best bets I had. We talked about this. I thought Pitt would hang. And there was one play right there. First drive for Pitt, one play. And I shut the TV off because I knew it was over. So can they bounce back? Well, I'll say this. Let's take a look at Georgia Tech. And I like both these teams. I really do. I like both head coaches. They are they're all Narduzzi's all about defense. And then Brent Key, like the way they run the ball. I mean, this guy's a master, man. They do some really cool stuff to run the football. However, on defense, Georgia Tech, last week, Boston College, not a great football team, but BC won its first game, and I think it was an FCS opponent, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And they have not won a game since. But they played well last week, and they threw for 362 yards. BC was 5 for 11 on third down, 2 for 2 on fourth down. They also ran for $175. Week before that, NC State averaged 8.7 yards per play against Georgia Tech. So think about that, 8.7 yards. If you get almost 9 yards every play, what's happening? I mean, you're moving the chains, right? You move the chains, you keep the ball, you get in the red zone, you score. And the last 2 weeks, Georgia Tech's given up 82 points. So guess who throws the shit out of the ball? Pitt, right? I mean, they're an air raid team. We've talked about it before. Number 12 in the country in scoring, 37 points a game, 287 plus in the air. I think that's top 15 in the country. I mentioned Mason Heinzel last week. Guy took over, was 5-0. And of course, last week, ran into a buzzsaw in Notre Dame's defense and had his worst game. But still, this is an offense that, is very, very good. Pitt also, on the other end, this is going to be a nice battle, is Georgia Tech's running game, which is top 10 in the country, against a top 10 run defense in Pitt. Pitt only gives up 90 yards a game. Notre Dame gashed him. Jeremiah Love's he's a stud. So's the other kid, Price. But they're still pretty stout against the run. They don't, they give up, well, it's less than 5 yards a play. So I think it's 4.7 or so per play, which is pretty good. When you're giving teams 4 yards a play, 5 yards a play, you can hang in there and, force some third down. So when you take a look at all of it, and add it all up, for me, I looked at the total. It opened at 58.5. It's up to 62.5. These are two really good offenses and some suspect pass defense, especially on the Georgia Tech side. And then I'm going to throw this in there too, just so people know what it is. If you haven't ever heard of it, I don't think we've ever brought it up, but it's the middle eight. So the middle eight in a football game is the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half. And it's one of the reasons why a lot of coaches decide to defer the coin toss at the beginning of a game so that they can get the ball to start the second half, blah, blah, blah. I've told you how I feel about that sometimes too, but middle eight is very important for Georgia Tech. Lately, they haven't been great in the middle eight. BC was 14-0. BC outscored Georgia Tech in the middle eight. NC State outscored them 10-3. So, if Pitt has success in this middle eight, I think that Georgia Tech's in for a fight. But that all leads me to what I think is the best play in this game. And I've said it tons of times this season. I like the over, but what I like better is both teams to score 25 plus points. So either way, I mean, if you want to play the over, like I said, it opened at 58.5, it's up 4 points. If you like that, yeah, great. But it's probably because it's going to be a, 34-31 or, 37-30 type of game. So I like both teams to score 25 plus right now. That's right around even money right now. It's Wednesday night. So as we get closer to game time, that price is going to go up. So if you like it, jump on it now.
Yeah, you make a good point there with that middle eight. I mean, that also affects first half, second half spreads in a lot of cases.
Yes.
Who comes out in the first half? They may have scored like a field goal hypothetically in the first half, and then of course they're going to get the ball in the second half. You usually see a little bit of weight into the second half line, so kind of some high indicators there with second half, and it kind of gives you some good betting value there on the second half as well. But yeah, you talk about these two teams, and I'm just going to do it right now. I'm on Pitt. I think Pitt does come back on this one. Now, let's not get it twisted here. Let's not get like too crazy. And you mentioned it. It was like, what team is got 2 losses and deserves to be in the college football playoff? It's Notre Dame. I'm going to say it adamantly. They've done nothing but beat the crap out of team. They've lost by a total of 4 points this year, and it was because they were starting a rookie quarterback and a lot of new key guys on that team, especially on the offensive side of the ball, where they couldn't figure things out. Of course, they should have beat Texas A&M, but you have a former quarterback that can't hold a place kick for an extra point, and then you lose the game. And of course, some bad penalty calls, missed hold. Let's go into let's go into the game right here. I'm getting way off into the left field. Georgia Tech is 9-1, and I put this in a lot of people that I know, some very smart guys have put Georgia very low on the power rankings as far as their rated value, and it shows when you look at some of these box scores. I can't believe they're winning football games. I don't know how it's getting done, and when you look at Pitt's 7-3, but they're a little bit more battle tested in these cases. Of course, Georgia Tech is a team that wants to run the ball. That is key on this one. 30th in rush play percentage. 7th in rushing yards per carry and 9th in rushing yards per game, but Pitt defense can stop the run. Don't look at what happened last week. They're going against a buzzsaw with Notre Dame. They are 8th in opposing rush yards per carry and 9th in opposing rush yards per game this season. And Pitt's offense is pass-oriented. Coach did mention that. They are 13th in pass yards per game. They've passed for 300 yards or more in 7 out of the last 10 games. That gives you an indicator that, they're going to want to pass the ball with the young quarterback, and I think he has a little bit of a bounce back here. Georgia Tech defense has got exposed. In the passing game, 67.8% pass completion rate and 325 yards per game to opponents' last 4 games. Revisionist history. Look where these teams are right now. This team is a falling knife in Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech could be caught in a little bit of a look ahead too. I know this is an important ACC game, and I don't think it is necessarily a look ahead, but they do have their rival in Georgia coming up. Remember last year, that was like a triple overtime type of game or something like that. It was crazy. So Pitt should bounce back here. Their strengths on their defense and the offensive side play well into what either Georgia Tech wants to do from an offensive strength and exposes their weaknesses on the defensive side of the ball. I cannot believe I'm getting value here at +2.5 with Pitt. It might be on the road. It might be because they're a 9-1 team and they figure that the John Q public will look at what happened last week and say, "Oh my God, Pitt is not a good team." Well, watch what happens this week. Pitt +2.5 is the way I'm going to be playing that one. All right, let's go to the next game on the board here. BYU. Speaking of teams that are I can't figure out. I told people last week they're playing in Provo. Please ignore them, and hopefully they win and Cincinnati loses, and then we can take Cincinnati this week. That's what I want to do. But Nippert is going to be rocking here, Cincinnati, Ohio, and it is a night game in Nippert. 8 p.m. is going to be the tip on the East Coast, and BYU is 9-1 on the year. Man, oh man, the target is getting a little bit closer to them. They did beat TCU pretty badly at home, but you have Cincinnati off back-to-back losses, and they're hungry too. They're 7-3 on the year, and they play very well at home. But I'll start with you, Coach. What do you think of this one, BYU versus Cincy?
Yeah, this is really interesting. The BYU TCU game last week, that was my free pick that I gave out and said, hey, it's a night game in Provo. Like, that's all you need to know, basically. And BYU did come through and 44-13. I mean, they made a statement, after that loss to Texas Tech. So, I just keep asking myself, like, why is BYU road favorite? So then I looked at common opponents. They both played Iowa State. They both beat Iowa State. Cincy beat them by 8. BYU beat them by 14. They both played Utah. They both played Arizona. BYU beat those teams. Cincinnati did not. Like Gunz said, Cincinnati coming off 2 straight losses. I think the key in those losses is why I would lean toward BYU, and that is both Utah and Arizona were able to just move the football against Cincinnati's defense. Cincinnati, I remember we talked on here, weeks back about, hey, I think Cincinnati has pretty good defense, kind of underrated. They brought the Godfather back, Dante Corleone on the D-line. But they've regressed a little bit. They gave up 475 to Arizona, 480 total yards to Utah. Utah ran for a boatload, 260 something. So what does BYU do? They love to run the football. Average around 200 yards rushing per game. Bear Bachmeier, he can beat you with his arm and his legs. BYU, again, tough defensively. Like I said, why is the line 2.5? Right now, I got to listen to it. So for me, I'm going to lean towards BYU minus the 2.5. And at some point, we'll pull the trigger on that, and maybe it makes the card.
Well, I'm going to go the opposite direction. I'm going to walk right to the Cougar trap.
Yep.
Okay to walk into a Cougar trap sometimes. I don't know if it is the right Cougar trap I want to walk into, but I'm going to do it anyways on this one with the Bearcats playing at home. I mean, yes, they have lost back-to-back losses, but Cincinnati wants to run the ball. They run that dual threat option very well. They're 8th in rushing yards per carry. They're 28th in the country in rush yards per game. And when you look at BYU, I have seen some weaknesses in this when they have to face rush-oriented teams with dual threats. They gave up 4.8 yards per carry to Utah. They actually lost the yardage battle in that game too. And then they gave up 6.1 yards per carry and 5.4 yards per carry to Iowa State. So they are susceptible of giving up rush yards. And then you look at BYU is winning lately, but you got to go look at the box score, guys. 3 out of the last 4 games, they have lost the yardage battle. And some of them were definitive, but they're getting the victories, man. They're getting that Mormon luck on some of these games, and sometimes that works. BYU offensively and defensive production has dropped, especially on the road this season. Once they get out of Provo, they're a little bit more weaker, and you know you see the patine kind of come off the sculpture there, the Brigham Young sculpture. BYU puts up 74 yards less per game when they travel on the road versus home, and they also give up 135 yards per game more to their opponents on the road than they do at home. So yes, you can get some yards on this team and maybe make the score a little bit closer and scare them a little bit. Mind you, this team went on the road against Texas Tech and got smoked. Granted, Texas Tech, better team, I will say that. This is the highest road total of the year for BYU going into this game. So that is kind of giving me a little bit of a Cincinnati vibe when I'm looking at the spread. I just think this BYU team is on borrowed time. Tick tock, tick tock. They've already got smoked by Texas Tech. I think they're due for one more loss, and I think this is the perfect spot to be jumping on a team coming off that bad loss versus Arizona at home. Maybe they were looking ahead to this game and not paying attention to the team in front of them at Nippert, and they've already been comfortable there. Of course, BYU had to travel, actually played at home. Now they got to travel here in this spot at 8 p.m. It's going to be a night game. It's going to be rocking. Cincinnati Bearcats, step up and give it to me, plus 2.5. The way I'm playing this game. All right, we just broke down the top 25 and gave you the 4 best games that are on the board in the top 25, in our opinion. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Jay Cavalier channel. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you hit the bell. Make sure you hit all the buttons, except for the ones that say thumbs down. We don't want those. Get into the comment section. Drop a few comments. Of course, Coach gave you a topic on this one. Does 2 lost teams belong in the college football playoff? Very good question. You can go drop some comments there. But we still have 4 more games to break down for you. Coach has got 2. I got 2. We're going a little bit off the grid, as they say, to pick some of this games. We'll start with Coach on this one with some AAC action here with UCF going on the road to face UAB. High total, high scoring affair. But Coach has a little bit of a take on how to play this one. Coach, what do you think?
I do. Yeah, I do. We're going to play some USF, my wife's alma mater at UAB. Before I get to that, I'm going to throw this out there, and we can see if anybody gets the answer at the end. Coach Rick Trivia, right? So my daughter started dating this guy from Wyandotte, which is another Detroit suburb, and I went down a rabbit hole and looking up famous people from Wyandotte, and I found this guy, and just so happened to have a connection to college football. So it's like, man, I wonder if anybody knows this. So born in Wyandotte, Michigan here. His father worked in the auto industry, actually died 5 months before he was born. His mom was killed in a car accident when he was 17 months old. So he was adopted by an aunt and uncle, moved to Kentucky, became a high school football and track star, went to play college football at Indiana back in the late 1950s. He transferred to Eastern Kentucky, played his last 2 years there, and got his degree in physical education. He also got injured. So he didn't take a tryout with the old St. Louis Cardinals. He actually went and did something else. And that something else led to a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Went and played at Indiana from Wyandotte, Michigan, star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. We'll see if we can answer it at the end. USF at UAB, Dub Bulls. Really, I mean, you don't need to know anything more than this. South Florida scores a ton of points. UAB gives up a shitload.
Yes, they do.
So only one team in the country gives up more points than UAB. That's Georgia State. UAB gives up 38.7 points a game. I mean, they've given up 50, I think, 3 times? And they just gave up 53 to North Texas. And if you remember last week, we sat here, I told you what to do. Take North Texas team total, and then wait for the running backs, player props to open up. That dude scored 5 touchdowns, by the way. Just saying. So anyway, This is easy. So UAB, they have 2 losses, right? Or 3? 2. Yeah, 2.
They have 2.
They lost to Miami, and then they lost to Memphis. So they lost to Miami. Next game they come back, they score 63 points.
They got 3. They lost.
They got
to
3 because they lost to Navy last week.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's right. Lost to Memphis, come back the next week, 55 points. So they lost to Navy last week, which is all, I love Navy. If you want some offensive highlights, go flip that thing on YouTube, man. It's awesome. But team total for USF in this game right now is 45.5. Don't be surprised if it's like closer to 48 by game time. I don't care. They're going to score over 50. They might hit 60 here. So I like the team total right now over 45.5, which they've done. They've scored 45.5 or more in 5 of their last 7 games. The only 2 were the losses to Navy and Memphis. And then also Byram Brown, the quarterback from USF. Again, the player prop markets aren't open yet. You want to get him, see what his anytime touchdown costs, and then look at his passing yards and or rushing yards. Of course, you're going to look at pricing and some past performances and see if it's worth it. But I think you're going to be able to back him and overs in the props market, along with USF's team total. Done.
I will say this as I'm looking at USF stats here.
Yep.
You need USF to score more than 40 points, because when they don't score more than 40 points, they lose. They lost 31 points to Memphis, and they lost last week 38 points to Navy. That's like, what? They bounced back better than anybody. They lost to Miami. What did they do the next week? South Carolina State scored 63, lost to Memphis. They went to UTSA and scored 55. So, yeah, that is a beautiful take on this one. Patternistic, and you got a UAB team that just gives up a lot of points. Love the take, Coach. Let's go to the next play on the board here. Cal versus Stanford in the ACC. Of course, I want to call it the Pac-12. I had to stop myself every single time. And, yes, we have a delicious game here. Am I going to be taking air? No, I'm just going to put this hat on because I just want to put it on for my next take. But Cal and Stanford, this is going to be a weird spot here for Cal. They're 6-4 in the year. They're off an upset win. They are off a bye as well. They got a big win for that program against Louisville on the road. And now they're going against the Stanford team that has lost three on the road and are off a road loss to UNC. So this is a team that is getting back home, and they can breathe a little bit, because one thing you can take away from Stanford on this bad year, on this little bit of a transition year, is they play pretty good at home. They have a +1 point differential, -81 net yard average, but a +3 turnover ratio. So there is some, hype on this one, because they're 3-1 straight up at home this year. Played a lot of road games. Cal is in a bad scheduling spot. I did mention that before I did the take on this one. Cal is playing their 3rd road game in 5 weeks. They played at Virginia Tech, traveled all the way to Charlottesville, probably stayed in that area, and then they had to play UVA, and then Louisville in the next week. So that was their schedule, and of course they're coming off the bye. Now they're back home. Cal is also coming off the highs of highs with that big win. Guess who they have on deck? They have a big opponent in 7-3 SMU. So this is one of those spots you could overlook this opponent here. Stanford lost to Cal last year on the road, 24-21, very close game, but they were 14.5-point road dogs. Now you're seeing them here as a 3-point home dog. It smells like a bad situational spot for Cal, and Cal may be overlooking this opponent. I know Stanford is going to be highly motivated to go beat their in-state rival here in California. I think Stanford gets it done, and guess what? Stanford's got to play Notre Dame next week. You can say that's a look ahead, but I don't think they're looking ahead to Notre Dame. They're looking to win this game versus Cal. Give it to me, +3.5 with Stanford as the dog at home, and might as well sprinkle a little bit on the money line for an outright winner. All right, next game on the board, of course, Coach has got to go to the Service Academy. Tulsa versus Army in this one, and yes, they're playing in upstate New York. Tulsa not having a great season. Neither is Army, for that matter. But Coach has got to take. It's all about paying the bills. Doesn't matter how ugly the game is. Coach, tell them what you think about this one.
Hey, it's Army at Mikey Stadium, right? So you're playing a Tulsa team that not very good on the road and not very good at defending the triple option. So Army, of course, one of the top rushing teams in the country. I think they're number 4, 261 yards a game on the ground. Coach Monken is all about time of possession. Army, of course, with that run offense, number 1 in the country in time of possession. They hold the ball for about 36 minutes a game. I remember watching a game last year. They held the ball for 42 minutes. I can't remember the opponent, but they ran like 30-some plays. That's it. I mean, they just never had the ball. And when you don't have the ball, you can't score. So I think this one goes a lot like last year. Last year, Army was a 14-point favorite on the road. They ran for 321 yards and held Tulsa to 7 points, and they walked out 49-7. And I know it's a different Army team. They're not as dynamic offensively this year. But Tulsa, 1-5 in their last 6 games, 1-8 last 9 on the road. They have not won any of their last 10 conference games. And then the big thing defensively, Trey Lamb, the head coach there, he's a defensive guy. And he did well at East Tennessee State. And I think eventually he'll get it right once he gets some dudes there. But he gave up 40 points to FAU, 38 to Temple, 41 to ECU. ECU runs the ball pretty well too. I think they ran for over 250 against Tulsa. And same with Memphis. Memphis is a top 25 rushing team. They scored 45 points on Tulsa. I think Army gets it done. I'm going to play it, but I'm playing it at Army minus 9.5. You can actually get that. It's still like minus 110. And then the other thing you want to take a look at, make sure you look at this when the market's open. Cale Helms is the Army quarterback now. He has 12 rushing touchdowns, and he's actually their leading rusher. So he'll carry the ball quite a bit. But check out his anytime touchdown. See what the pricing is on that. He has 12 touchdowns this season. He's likely to score. And then I'm not there yet on the Army team total, but I am looking at that. And again, you might want to take a look at that, see what the pricing is. It's 27.5 now. I don't know. Maybe it goes up. We'll see. Still a low total for the game, which that's because I don't think Tulsa's going to score much.
Yeah, love the take on this one. Service Academy unders. Yes, time of possession, top 5 in the country as far as controlling the clock. Army is. It seems like year to year for them. All right, let's go to another game on the board here with the Big 12. Baylor going on the road to face Arizona. Of course, Arizona coming off that big win in Nippert last week. 1 p.m. is going to be the kick on this one in Arizona, for that matter. So it's going to be a little bit of an early game there. Now Baylor losing 3 out of the last 4 games, 5-5 on the year. So they are playing a little bit. I think they're going to be playing a little bit motivated, trying to get to a bowl game. Of course, they have one more game next week, but you have Arizona in the highs of highs coming off that win, and they're 7-3 on the year. Now both teams can score points. That is a given. You have Baylor that can score 33 points per game. They're ranked 25th in the country in scoring. And Arizona can put up 31 points per game. They are 35th in scoring. And Baylor's defense gives up a lot of scoring to their opponents this year. They give up 33 points per game to conference opponents, 39 points per game on the road, and 35 points per game in the last 4 weeks. They give up points. They gave up 42 to TCU. They gave up 41 to Cincinnati, and in their last 2 road games, just as a sample size. Then you have the Baylor offense. They're putting up 37 points per game on the road, 31 points per game versus conference opponents, 29 points per game in the last 4 weeks. They had a little bit of a drop-off, but they're still scoring. Arizona is 5-1 to the under at home this season. However, this total is in the 60s. This is the highest total it's been all year in Arizona. No total has surpassed 57.5 this season. Give you an idea where that's going. Of course, Baylor is 3-1 to the over on the road this year, and their totals on the road have averaged 76 points per game. I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair here with Baylor and Arizona, regardless of the highs of highs. Arizona's not going to come out flat on this one. And Baylor, for that matter, will score points on you. So you got to stay with them, or they'll just leave you behind in this track meet. Baylor, Arizona, over the total at 62.5 is the way I'm going to be playing this one. All right, we did it. We talked about 4 games. We gave you the plays. We gave you our takes. We gave you our knowledge. All we ask you to do is hit the like button as you're watching this video right now. It's a thumbs up. It goes like this. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the J Cavalier channel, you need to do so as well. Hit the subscribe button, of course. We have Instagrams. Why Lose Guns? Why Lose Coat? You can go follow us out on Instagram and go check out our Telegrams. Our link's in the bio if you want to go check that out. We drop free plays all the time. We drop a lot of knowledge. And, of course, you can get all the deals. Coach, what do you got going on for Why Lose this week?
We will have a max bet Saturday. I did have one last week, and we did cash that max bet. Best bets weren't as great, but max bet will be available, $49. You get the max bet plus the best bets that I make, and then if the max bet does not cash, you get the rest of the college football season for free. And then what I'm also doing an all sports special right now. So college basketball has started, and I've been, in the past I've done very well in college basketball. So far this season, about almost 70%, I believe. I have to check it after yesterday, but we're moving along, and you can pick up all of my bets in all sports, $149. That'll go from now until December 31st.
Wow. What a deal. What a deal, this one. And, of course, yes, I did. As of Sunday, the all sports package is now open for all the Gunz plays on this one. College basketball, NFL, and college football, all the way through bowl season. Go sign up for that one. Yes, I'm going to drop a special deal for the holidays. I'm going to start it right around Thanksgiving week, so go check that out. I haven't figured out what the price point is going to be on that one, but look out for it on my Telegram. That's why you follow Why Lose Guns. You follow Why Lose Coach. Get to the Telegram. You'll always know what's going on if you follow along there. But that's going to do it here for week 13. College football player performance. I am Gunz Picks. That is Coach Rick. Let's cash some tickets. Let's dominate the board. And as always, Coach.
Giddy up.
And let's keep dancing.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort.